when I think of a business like TikTok, for example, it couldn't have taken off any earlier than 2020, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed.
You need internet speeds to be a certain level. You need smartphones to be sufficiently powerful. And maybe you need everyone to be at home on lockdown and be bored and just want to dance on the internet and stuff. Some things happen when they're going to happen.
What's going on, people, and welcome back to another installment of the Blackprint, providing aspiring black entrepreneurs and business owners the blueprint to start your success story. I'm your host, Spainy, and today I am joined by a very special guest, ladies and gentlemen. I can't understate how special this guest is. I'm joined by Rotimi Merriman-Johnson, Mr. Money Jar himself. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Thank you very much for having me.
No worries at all. I think I have to double thank you for coming on, because as you know, this is the second time we're actually sitting down and having a conversation. For those who don't know, or actually for the eagle-eyed amongst you, if you've paid attention to the opening scene or the opening kind of the introduction, if you like, to the Blackprint on YouTube, you may have seen Rotimi's face on there and thinking, well, I don't remember this conversation. He's wearing slightly different clothes. By the way, you're looking very sharp today. He's wearing slightly different clothes. I don't remember this conversation, but Rotimi and I actually sat down 4 years ago, almost to the day, actually. We were just discussing that and had this exact conversation. Well, it's obviously going to be a different conversation, but in a similar format. But unfortunately, things happened. The episode unfortunately didn't see the light of day, but I think we discussed just now that it was still a good chat that we had anyway, and I'm glad that we can do part two. So look, thank you so much for your time again. Greatly appreciate it. So for those who have been sleeping under a rock and don't know you, Mr. Manager, who are we?
Yeah, who am I? As you said, my name is Rotimi Merriman-Johnson. I run a financial education platform called Mr. Money Jar. I mainly post online about personal finance, investing, property. This year I've been doing a lot of financial news as well. So I went to Downing Street in May to announce the inflation figures that month, and I react to things that are happening in the economy and politics and stuff. Covered the spring and the autumn budgets.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah. And I am an ambassador for a charity called National Numeracy. So I support them throughout the year on essentially helping UK adults and children to feel more confident about numbers. And I'm also a qualified financial advisor. So about a year ago, I passed my exams to give me the ability to practice, but also to solidify everything I've learned essentially since we last did the episode. So a lot's happened in the 4 years for both of us. It's really great to be back on the podcast again today.
Nice. No, I appreciate that. I'm excited to get into it. So this is it's a Friday afternoon. We've got drinks to we
didn't cheers them.
We didn't cheers. You're right. Well,
yeah, cheers.
Cheers. We've got drinks to reflect that. I'm not going to mention any brands because ain't no one out there sponsoring this podcast. But to be fair, judging by the colour of that, I'm sure the alcoholics among us can tell what that is. And yeah, you have something tickles your fancy as well. So let's dive straight into it. So we sat down, as I say, almost 4 years ago to the day. So that's end of 2020. You started Mr. Money Jar 2019, end of 2019, if I'm not mistaken. talk to me first about kind of your upbringing, if you like. And when I say that, I just more so mean in terms of education and what life kind of looks like within that regard. The only reason I ask is because I feel, especially when it comes to people who go into becoming a financial advisor or going down the finance route, education, I feel like it was always something that was maybe on the cards that they thought about, right? Now, one thing I noticed about you is you actually studied law. So talk to me about the transition or the decision making from studying law to then deciding you had a couple of jobs in finance and then obviously now working for yourself as a financial advisor. Paint the picture for me.
Yeah, I studied law due to what I would call gentle familial pressure.
I'm sure my audiences will know all about that.
Yeah. So I'm from a Nigerian family, a Yoruba family, and yeah, there's just only 3 jobs you can do really: law, medicine, accounting / engineering. And I didn't go into practice. I didn't enjoy it very much. And I actually spent a lot of uni running my first couple businesses. So I used to have a graphic design business, and I used to make flyers and logos and other things for ACSs around the country. And the uni was like a quite difficult time for me, just in terms of mental health and that sort of thing. I think that happens to a lot of us, like particularly us men. But anyway, left uni, and my first job was at a financial PR company. They're still around today. They're based in the city, and my job was essentially to do consumer research surveys and go on the likes of the Office for National Statistics and gov.uk and find data to help get our clients into the press. So when you read a newspaper and it says, 45% of people think this, new research commissioned by this organization. So that's a PR company that's done that. They've done the research, they've written the press releases, they've sent the press releases to the newspapers, the TV stations, the radio stations and stuff. And the whole idea is that you put that into the press to then have the brand recognition for that brand. Because if I say baked beans to you or Coke or toothpaste, there's probably 3 brands that pop into your head already, and that's as a result of PR.
Yeah.
Advertising is what gets you to buy a particular type of toothpaste or a particular type of baked beans. After spending some time with that company, I did a couple of years in influencer marketing, so finding people like myself, but agency side, and then positioning them in campaigns. And I would say this is around the infancy of influencer marketing. So it's like 2017, 2018, back in the days when Instagram was still a photo sharing platform. And then after that, I spent some time as a finance manager as well. So I actually learned a lot about what it means to be an entrepreneur in that role. I was like doing payroll and invoicing and that sort of thing. And I had a really, really good manager at the time. In fact, in all 3 jobs, I had really, really good managers, and I'm still in touch with all 3 of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. You mentioned there then that during uni, you actually started off doing graphic design. It sounds like that was kind of a venture that you did on your own type of thing, as almost like a business, right? Or a side hustle, maybe, depending on how you wanna phrase it.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, you're working for yourself. Years later, I won't say how many years, but years later. I'm curious then, so was entrepreneurship always on the cards for you then? Or was the graphic design thing something that just an opportunity that presented itself, you took it and you liked it? Or as I say, was entrepreneurship always something that you kind of thought, I'm going to make a go at this?
Yeah. Since secondary school, I've always sold stuff. So I used to make beats back in the day on Fruity Loops.
Okay.
And I used to design MySpace pages and sell the designs to people. And I didn't know what a side hustle was. I didn't call it entrepreneurship, but I just it just naturally came to me to create things. And then people started wanting to buy them. So by the time I started doing Mr. Money Jar and started designing things, I had 10 years worth of graphic design experience, partially self-taught, and I'd done a couple of courses on it as well. So yeah, entrepreneurship has always been in me. Maybe it's a Nigerian upbringing. I don't know. Like,
I was going to ask, where did that come from?
Yeah. I think that the culture is very much centered around, like working hard and adding value and hustle and that sort of thing. But my definition around entrepreneurship has evolved for sure.
Okay.
One thing I've noticed about my previous ventures is that they were always reliant upon me to do the thing that I was doing to make the money. And what I now know is that at the very most, if you tie your ability to make money to your time or to you actually having to do stuff, then that's self-employment or a side hustle. Whereas now I see a business as a system or a collection of systems that you can plug people and technology into that can work independently of you and that you can potentially one day sell. And I would even go so far as to say that I think it is morally incumbent upon any entrepreneur to have an exit plan for their business, because some of the greatest companies in the world today, the founders are no longer with us. So it would be a huge shame if, Disney just didn't exist because Walt Disney was no longer with us. He had to create a thing that was separate to him that could outlast him. And that is what I'm thinking about at the moment with regards to what I'm doing this year, next year, the next 5 years and beyond. How can I create something that outlives me?
That's a very interesting point you make, because it's certainly one of the topics I wanted to raise over the course of this conversation, because obviously you've branded yourself as Mr. Money Jar. Now, as I say, we will come on to this conversation, but I'm glad you've kind of preempted it, if you like it, in that way. But before we do that, then let's go back then to kind of your working time as in the influencer marketing, time as a finance manager, and time at the what's the first place again? Just remind me.
The financial PR company.
Yes, financial PR company. Thank you. Now, during your time there, how many years does those three roles span roughly?
5 years.
About 5 years.
Yeah.
During that 5 year period, I know we've just said that entrepreneurship was always kind of within you, whether or not it's the Nigerian in you or whatever. But during that 5 year period specifically, then, was there always a plan that you were realizing in terms of becoming Mr. Money Jar, or going into business for yourself? Because whether this is intentional or not, what's interesting about that journey to where you are today is the financial PR, the influencer marketing, and then the finance manager. All of those seem to tie into what you are doing now.
What I do today is a blend of everything I've done before, for sure.
Yeah. So was that very much intentional, or again, was it kind of, okay, you did one role, you just happened to stumble upon the next, you happened to stumble upon the finance manager role, and then it was, now it's time to do my own thing?
Yeah. It's both. At every stage, I was planning my next step, and then looking backwards, it all makes sense. You're like, oh, right, that's like, you're literally doing a blend of everything you've done. Did I know that I would end up doing exactly what I'm doing today? No, because there were things that didn't exist. TikTok didn't exist when I was doing influencer marketing, and I had a business before, which was actually a finance app. So I went down the product route first before going down the media route. So there were things I just possibly couldn't have known. But one of the strengths I think I have is I'm good at pattern recognition. I'm good at joining the dots between disparate pieces of information, and I'm good at extrapolation. And there's an enormous opportunity in the world today. And it's that billions of people all over the world have a are walking around with a tiny TV in their pockets, and that TV connects to the internet. So if you are educational, controversial, funny, sexy, all four, whatever, and you're prepared to record yourself and put yourself on the internet, you can garner an audience, and then there will be people with money, organizations, individuals who will want to get in front of your audience. You can post on the internet for free, and the more you post, the happier the platforms are. It's a really crazy development, like crazy time that we're living in. I think it's a revolution that we're living through, actually. So if you go back to the 17 and 1800s, that was of course the Industrial Revolution. That's when we had like steam engines and railways and like electricity and all these new technologies. The same thing is happening now. The same thing is happening right now. We're in the middle of a digital revolution where information can be sent. You can reach anyone with anyone with an internet connection. There's amazing things happening in the world of AI. There's amazing things happening in the world of VR and AR. And I'm just saying all this to say that there's opportunity everywhere. There's money literally everywhere, if you're prepared to tap in.
No, that's powerful, and you're not wrong. I think even myself, sometimes I think to myself that money is scarce out there.
No,
but yeah, I've just come back from Dubai on Monday, and boy, you just realize that there's a lot going around, and I just need my 1% of what's out there, and I'm good.
Yeah, billions and billions of pounds is transacted in the UK every single day, and that's just one country. And as an entrepreneur, all you want to do is get in front of that money with a bucket and just collect.
Well, you said you worked for a charity, so or you're a partner with a charity, so that's no, cool. Okay, so you mentioned the finance app. I'm interested to talk about that quickly. So do you mind painting a picture as to what it was, how you went about starting that, what the purpose of it was, and ultimately what happened to it?
Yeah, so that was my first foray into business. I started a finance app which came from a personal experience I had where I'd signed up to a gym, I didn't forget to cancel it. I thought I'd cancelled it, but I hadn't. And it took money from my bank account for like a year. Like I lost 100 and something quid. And I was like, there really needs to be a product that helps you manage your subscriptions. Because I noticed that more and more things were being paid for monthly. And I got together with some friends and we worked on it for a little bit. But I would say that there were 3 reasons why it didn't take off. One, I think it was quite early to market. And I think that if you fast forward to today, it probably would have ended up being like a buy now, pay later product or something, like separating like monthly payments. So I'm kind of glad I didn't make that. Second reason is I did it the pressurized way. So I quit my job with savings and I gave myself a year to make it work. And that's not how business works at all. And the third reason was that I was a non-technical founder. So what I did with Mr. Money Jar was I made sure that I built something that could be built in my own time for free that I could make myself. That was permissionless. So that's that thing I'm talking about with the internet. It's permissionless. You can literally record yourself and post yourself. You don't need to rely on anyone else to do that. And that's what enabled me to grow my platform because it rested completely with me. But then there's a flip side to that, which is if everything is dependent on you, then as I said, you're not really running a business. You're just, you either have a side hustle or you're running a trade, you're self-employed. So if I stop working, then under that model, well, actually it's not me, it's just content creation. With content creation, if you stop working, then you stop making money. So you need to look into things like creating a product or a service or doing affiliate or that sort of thing.
Yeah. So talk to me about that year then, because as you just said, it sounds like you put a lot of pressure on yourself to make it work. First of all, why do you think you did that? Why do you think you did leave your job to try and pursue that and make it work? And yeah, just paint a picture for me, or talk to me about that year from a mindset, from just how the development of the app went along, etc. If that's all right.
Yeah. Because I really, really wanted to start a business. It's just something I've always wanted to do. My yearning to start a business was like probably what some people experience with regards to having kids or something. Like I just thought about it all the time. I really, really wanted to do it. And I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And so I think the first time you do most things, you're going to fail because you're doing it for the first time. You just need to not die in the process. And then you just take the lessons from what you've done and then you roll it into the next thing. So I don't have any regrets at all. I just kind of, it's kind of like not knowing how to swim and just jumping in the water and just seeing what happens.
Yeah. What lessons did you learn from that year then?
Yeah, I learned that, and there's a great TED talk about this actually, that when it comes to business success, a key metric is like timing. When I think of a business like TikTok, for example, it couldn't have taken off any earlier than 2020, I don't think.
Yeah, agreed.
You need internet speeds to be a certain level. You need smartphones to be sufficiently powerful. And maybe you need everyone to be at home on lockdown and be bored and just want to dance on the internet and stuff. Some things happen when they're going to happen.
Yeah.
And you can't go, I'm going to give myself a year to do a thing. I mean, a year is an arbitrary period of time. So that's what I did with the first business. So when I came to Mr. Money Jar, I actually worked. I said, I'm going to take as long as I need. Thankfully, I was working with a company that knew that I had a business that let me work 4 days a week.
Nice. So
I worked 4 days a week. And then on the day off, I originally had Fridays off. And then I moved it to Wednesday. If you work 4 days a week, if you make Friday your day off, then you've just given yourself a 3-day weekend. You probably won't work. But if you make it Wednesday, then you'll actually... And it breaks up your week as well. So that's just a tip for everyone. So I worked for like a year. And I just built it, and I didn't make any money, and I just did it because it was fun. And then I would say another lesson that I learned is that you do need to have a core expertise in what you're doing. So I'm not saying that people who can't build apps shouldn't build apps, but I just think it's way easier if you can sit down and write the code yourself or build the thing yourself. Because if you don't have the core skill set in the thing that you're doing, then you've immediately created a bottleneck. You're having to rely on someone else to be able to move forward with your thing. And if you have money, obviously this isn't a problem. You can just pay people to do stuff. But if you're starting from zero, just look at what your interests are. Look at what you're good at, and do something that's permissionless.
No, nice. Thank you. So you said you were working for the first year or so before you started Mr. Money Jar. Oh, sorry, when you started Mr. Money Jar, should I say. Now, this was 2019 then, was it, yeah? Is this the role this is the finance manager role that you were doing? Okay, fine. So basically, what I want to get at here is, when was the end of the year for the app? When was...
2018.
So that was beginning or end, roughly?
End of 2018.
End of 2018. Okay, fine. So then you've then gone back to work as the finance manager?
Yeah, because I ran out of money.
Yeah.
I ran out of money. So I got a job as an office manager at the charity, and then I was promoted to finance manager because I was basically doing financy things.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you've gone back into work. I mean, first of all, talk to me about, while I appreciate obviously you had to, talk to me, because obviously you've said, or you've touched on the fact that you've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. You almost forced yourself to make it happen in that year when you were doing the app.
Yeah.
It didn't work out. Forgive me for saying this, but the only way it's come to my head is you were maybe forced to have a taste of a bit of humble pie, maybe, in terms of it having not worked, and then obviously you've had to make the decision to go back to work. The only reason I'm bringing all of this up is because I think a lot of people might have the idea that, yeah, ultimately once you've gone out and tried to do something on your own, you can't go back into work, right? Now, I'd just be keen to touch on your mindsets when you did go back into work and that realization of the reality that you maybe would have to. Just talk to me a little bit about that, if you can. Sorry.
I think you're trying to get at something with your question. So hopefully I'm right about this. So are you kind of saying that, like, setting up a business, it not working out, and then going back to work is almost like a L?
I'm not saying it's an L.
Yeah.
I'm saying people might think it is.
Yeah. No, that's fine. What I would say to that is that L stands for lessons. Yeah. So look, running a business, having a job, like it's all income at the end of the day.
It's true.
Do you know, like, I think a lot of hype is put on entrepreneurship, and a lot of whatever the opposite of hype is, hate is put on like having a job,
9 to 5, yeah.
But ultimately, it's income.
It's income, yeah.
It's income, and actually, I would say, particularly to any young people listening to this, you should try to work in a job before you set up a company, or do both at the same time, because so many of the things that I know now come from the jobs I've done, and from the managers I've worked with, like really fantastic managers who taught me about data and Excel and paid for me to do graphic design training. And like when I worked at the PR company, we had to sell stories into the papers, and that was literally you'd block out time from basically the morning until lunchtime, and you just be on the phone just bothering journalists and stuff, and 90% of them would say no. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I was learning resilience and persistence and how to tweak what you're saying, like sales essentially.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have gotten all of that if I just left uni and gone straight into content creation. There would have been huge gaps in my knowledge, and I think that the fact that I did that 5-year period of working for people and learning is part of the reason why I'm so good at what I'm good at today, which is essentially delivering really informative, accurate, analysis and information. That's what I would say my USP is. I learned all of that stuff by working.
Yeah.
And so I would say that firstly, working a job, running a business, they're equally as valuable. The second thing I would say is that from a wealth perspective, you can create a company and you can grow the revenues and you can sell it. We were talking earlier about a friend of yours that had a business and sold it. You can do that and you can make money that way, or you can be in a really well-paid job and then you can just invest your money. It's the same thing. Like in this system, in capitalism, you become wealthy by owning stuff. You can own your own stuff, or you can own pieces of other people's stuff. Like, so I didn't really see it as a negative thing at all. I expected that it wouldn't work out, because I know that a huge percentage of businesses don't work out in the first 3 years. It's just the reality of it. But I learned a lot, and I was then able to turn it into what I'm doing today.
Yeah, no, brilliant. Now, that takes us, so we're end of 2018, you're at the charity, you're there for a bit, you then decide that Mr. Money Jar or that you're going to start Mr. Money Jar, basically. Talk to me about that. Where did that come from?
Well, Mr. Money Jar, I actually came up with the idea for Mr. Money Jar at a similar time to the app. And I was just like, I'm just going to do the app first. So somewhere there's like me brainstorming the name. and it's like before 2019. So literally the day I stopped working on the app, I opened the laptop. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do. Well, it was called Money Jar at the time. Yeah, so it wasn't based on me. It was just supposed to be a financial platform. Yeah, so as I said, the internet is like the biggest opportunity of a generation. And I figured, well, if I'm not the person making the product, and I can be the person who talks about them, talks about apps and websites that people can use, and teaches people about how money works. And in that period of time, I was just reading loads. I was going through like a new book every week. Most of them on the subject of finance, but a lot of them on the subject of personal development too. And yeah, I just had a sense that if I teach people about the stuff that I'm reading, and I make it applicable for a UK audience, because that's the other thing. A lot of the books I was reading, it was about dollars. It was like US stuff. So it was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and all of that. Yeah, just make it for a UK audience, then this will teach people a lot of stuff. And it wasn't just me who thought that. There are several dozen people who do what I do now, who started platforms around 2020, and they had a similar inkling as well.
I've interviewed one of them on this show previously. Funny enough, actually, in that conversation, we were talking about what you were just saying around the importance of, especially if you are in a 9-to-5, just making sure that you learn everything that you can and use that, even if you know it's not your end goal, use that to fuel and give you the skills and knowledge and a foundation to then go on and be great at whatever it is you end up doing as you have done. But no, okay, so that's ultimately where that came from then. I guess then talk to me a little bit about the actual beginnings of it then, when you actually posted your, because what did it start as? Did it start as post? Did it start, because I know you've got the Mr. Money Jar show, which maybe you've not done too many recently, but you were obviously doing a lot more back then. What did it actually begin with? It
started as a monthly meetup at a co-working space in Brixton.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was, obviously the topic was finance, but what were you selling this meeting as, and how were you getting people to come to it?
Yeah. So I did a practice run of it at my cousin's house. So I sat on the living room floor and I did an investing workshop. So I made some slides talking about how to start investing, and there was maybe 20 of us there on the day. We got some food and we had a projector and we put it on in the living room. And then the next day I did the event at the co-working space. And again, this theme of permissionless stuff. I went on Canva, I made a poster, I posted it to Eventbrite and put the time and the address, and then the sign-up started coming in.
Let me ask you something, sorry, because I may have just missed something there. You've gone on Canva, you've created a flyer using that graphic design background that you have. You've posted an event.
Yeah.
Were you selling tickets for this?
It was a free event.
Okay, it was a free event.
Yeah.
I'm only, as I say, forgive me if I've missed something here, but I'm just thinking, I've gone on Eventbrite, I've seen Mr. Money Jar in late 2019 is got an event on about, what was the first? Was the first one on investing as well?
Yeah, it was called Keeping Your Money or something. Yeah.
Keeping Your Money by Mr. Money Jar, late 2019. Who's Mr. Money Jar? Like who up until that point?
No one knew who I was. Yeah. No one knew who I was, but the flyer looked professional and people wanted to learn about investing.
Yeah.
So on the day, I remember we put out snacks and stuff, and we thought that maybe between 5 and 10 people would come. So there was me at the front with a screen and a clicker, 5 to 10 chairs or something, enough refreshments for that many people. 30 people came.
Wow.
We ran out of chairs.
Nice. That's a good position to be in.
The room was really full, and I'd never done anything like that before in front of regular people. I remember standing there going, okay, just act like you've been here before and just tell these people stuff. And then I gave the talk, and then at the end there were questions, And then I had a couple coaching sessions with some of the people afterwards. And this is what I'm saying to you. Like, you can just make a brand on the internet and just post it and just start a thing. Just turn an idea in your head into a reality.
What I'm kind of, forgive the kind of shock or the kind of thing, but I'm genuinely astounded by you effectively woke up, put a flyer up for something, said I'm going to give away advice or information if you like. Like, that takes some balls. Maybe you might, I don't know if you feel like that or not, because obviously you did it, to you maybe it was normal.
Yeah.
But to me, I'm sat here listening to that and I'm like, how do you develop the confidence to do that?
Yeah. I think you need to calculate the worst case scenario of anything you're doing. So the worst kinds of actions in life are those that are irreversible. Something that has bad consequences but is actually reversible, i.e. you can just not do another event or just take down the flyer or give people something to say thank you for giving up their time. Stuff that seems bad but is reversible is nowhere near as bad. So I calculated that the worst possible thing that could happen is that no one shows up, or I make a mistake, I make a fool of myself in front of everyone. That's like the worst thing. So just put the flyer up and see what happens. And I also have a fear of going through my life not doing stuff because I'm scared to do it. I would much rather do something and be scared and maybe not do it so well and then keep doing it and get better than just not do it at all. Dying with my best ideas in my head really, really terrifies me. Think about it. Think about your favorite piece of art or something. Think of if that person just never made it. It should be gone forever.
Yeah. That's that is powerful, to be fair.
So you got to do it.
That is powerful, and I think, to be fair, when we were speaking yesterday in the kind of pre-record conversation, if you like, I think I said to you as well that the aim for this podcast isn't to glorify entrepreneurship in any way, shape, or form, which is why I'd like for people to be as candid and transparent as possible, which is why I was asking questions around the finance app, for example, because I want people to see that it's not all just what you see on YouTube and people on yachts in Dubai or in wherever, right? There's grind, there's disappointment, there's failures, and there's lessons as well, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, one thing that I would love to achieve with this podcast is for people to not just sit on ideas, right? Not just have all these things that they want to do and they just never do anything about it, right? So that's why what you just said there around dying with ideas, around what's the worst thing that could happen, I think is very profound, and I think that should speak to a lot of the people that I'm trying to speak to in that regard. So thank you for that. But honestly, still, the level of confidence that's needed to do what you did there, man. I think there's a Drake bar that goes, I can't remember what song it is, but it's something like you don't know how good it is to be you because you're him. And that's coming to mind because, as I said, maybe you don't realize how much of a big deal that is that you just posted a thing online. But no, kudos to you for doing that, because as you said, who knows, Mr. Manager may not be here if it wasn't for that, event, right?
Look at everything that's happened since then. My business journey has just been lots of examples of me doing that. I'm going to do more stuff like that next year, and some of it will work and some of it won't.
No, nice. I hope it does work.
Yeah.
I hope it does. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that was the first event. Talk to me then about kind of just the next period, if you like, after that. What followed? You mentioned that you started to coach a few people from that event and stuff. But yeah, just paint a picture for me as to how things started to pick up from there.
Yeah. So, the pandemic absolutely catalyzed what I was doing because, firstly, lockdowns meant that we couldn't meet in person anymore. So I was doing the events monthly, like regularly monthly. And then it got to the start of 2020. And I'd been looking at some of the data around the pandemic because we first heard about it in late 20, well, hence COVID-19, right? We first heard it, and I was looking at some of the data. I was like, this is going to be really bad. People being like, yeah, it'll be fine. You know, go on holiday in summer. I was like, that's not what UCL is saying. Like, this is going to be a really big event. And if you study history, you know that we have a global pandemic once every 100 years anyway. So, yeah, I think people were at home. People were going through financial changes. Some of those changes were challenges. Some of those changes were positive. And yeah, there was just a huge appetite for people wanting to go online and learn stuff and learn about money. And there were lots of platforms that were born in that period of time. Lots of platforms turning 5 this year because it got started in 2020. And yeah, I just began to, I started off blogging. So I started blogging on Medium. No one read the blog, so I started to post on Instagram because most people I knew were on Instagram. I did infographics and stuff, and then TikTok kind of blew up around that period, so everything turned into video. And I was just using all the features on the app, and I started doing the Instagram lives because it's like if you do a live, then you get a piece of their audience and they get a piece of your audience, and it's building relationships with people as well. And human relationships are the most valuable thing on the planet. Way more than money. So, building those relationships there. And then after a couple years of the business, COVID began to recede. And then I started to go more into in-person things. And now today, it's, I've worked with the government. I've worked with the Bank of England. I've worked with pretty much all of the high street banks, lots of investment platforms and insurance companies, and it goes to show how powerful just the act of essentially teaching people online about a topic that's important to them can take you. It doesn't have to be money. It could be health. Could be teaching people a skill. Could be teaching people a language. But there's a huge opportunity there for the taking. And what I would also say is, I think my trajectory would have been very different if I was trying to do a physical product rather than a service. So this links back to what we were saying about the event I did. If I had to bake a bunch of cupcakes or if I had to cut people's hair or something, I wouldn't have been able to move as quickly. But because I was just doing an event and because I lowered the friction by making it free for everyone, that's also what enabled me to enable so many people to come on the day. So that's another thing to think about. But there are some stories of brands making products in the pandemic and doing really, like, there's some businesses doing really, really well at the moment.
Okay. I'm curious then, so the first event was 30 or so people. You did it every month for a year, basically, until...
Half a year.
Half a year. Sorry, yes, of course, because it was the end of 2019, wasn't it? Or roughly end of 2019. By the last event, how many people did we have turning up to that?
It was a steady, like 20, 25 people per session, and different people would come to each session as well. And we would deep dive a particular topic. Do you know what I think they were, really? They were like live YouTube videos.
Yes.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got slides and I'm talking. And I find that funny because I've still not created on YouTube as a solo creator. I've got some podcast episodes on there, but... I get you. You haven't got a mismanaged YouTube channel. I've got a YouTube channel, but I haven't done solo YouTube videos on it yet. And that's something that I've got my eye on as well. I think something that can hold me back a bit is that I can be a perfectionist. I can kind of sit on stuff for ages. Like I didn't use Instagram properly until 2019. Because I was just like, was observing it and be like, okay, how do I want to? But there's an argument to say that you should just try stuff. But when I do stuff, I do think I execute well.
Yeah.
So should I decide to create on YouTube in a long form way, I think it'll be because I found a way to do it and grow really quickly at it.
Yeah. So these events were free. Well, were they all free?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you were still working when you were doing these events, were you?
Mm-hmm.
Now, at what point, and silly question, but was it because of COVID that you ended up leaving, or was it because you just wanted to pursue Mr. Money Jar full time?
No. I ended up leaving because I got my first big brand partnership at the end of 2020. Mm-hmm. And I was also doing weekly news segments with Sky News. And that's like, that's quite an experience because, again, it was in lockdown. So you're doing what's essentially a Zoom call with the news channel.
Yeah.
But just to share what the experience was like. So what they don't tell you is that the feed that you see is of the TV show.
Right.
So you're speaking, and then everything you say,
it comes up on
and
TV.
then everything you say, like it's like there's a delay. So if when I go back and I watch my first ever news interview, you can just see on my face that I'm like, what is happening here? Like I'm just trying to get through it. So yeah, all that was happening, and I'd be doing these interviews, and I had like other stuff coming up, and I was taking time out of work, and I thought, let me just like jump before I'm pushed, and I left on really good terms with them, and I've worked with them in the business capacity since then.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So how? Because I'm just conscious there that we were just talking about obviously the early days with the events and whatnot, and then you've just mentioned there that late 2020 you started working with Sky, for example. That transition, talk to me about that. How did you get to a point where you were working with Sky? What were the kind of inputs from yourself? Was it, obviously you mentioned the events and then going live, etc. You starting to use Instagram to the full. But yeah, just talk to me about what it was that you feel you were doing and doing well that got you to that point that, you got Sky asking your opinion. Did you say monthly or weekly?
It was during October 2020. Yeah. So yeah, I think that the news publications, they obviously are on social media looking for different voices, non-mainstream voices that are still experts, but that can offer a different point of view. And then I guess what's in it for the news publications is that content creators will often post clips to the interviews they've given, thus promoting that particular news channel. And yeah, they must have spotted me, and they asked me to come on and just talk about different topics. So
up until that point, was it a case of just being consistency, putting stuff out there, making sure
posting consistently? Yeah, and then you post consistently. The algorithms want that because the whole point of a social platform is to keep people on that social platform. And your audience likes it because it gives them certainty that you're going to be there. So you post, your audience grows, you post some more, your audience grows some more, and then once you get enough of an audience, then that's when the broadcasters and the brands start paying attention. Yeah.
And was that something that you were focusing on ultimately in terms of your following count and whatnot, or was it just put the information out there and the rest will follow?
I had an unhealthy fixation with my follower count in the first couple of years, I would say. And it came from a good place. It came from wanting to help and not wanting to alienate anyone. So I would feel really good if the platform was growing, and I'd feel really bad if I posted something and it didn't do so well. But the more you create content, the more you realize that posting to social media, it really is skimming stones on the surface of the ocean, and sometimes you know, your angle and your speed can be perfect, but it could just be a really like stormy day. You know, something really big could have happened in the country or something, and so your post isn't going to get so much attention that day. But you just the thing that you have control over is how frequently you upload and the quality of what you're uploading, which is why you need to be more consistent. Now, I would say my relationship to my follower account is a lot more healthy. Obviously, I still want to help people and I still want to grow, but I am much more focused on engagement now rather than just getting bigger and bigger numbers. And this is because the follower count is actually, a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of brands don't realize this as well. Your follower count is actually a throwback to when social websites were social networks and not social media. So when the likes of MySpace and Facebook used to exist, your network would be your friends and your family.
Yeah.
So you'd maybe have a few hundred people that were following you, and you would post, and your post would show up to all of them. But once social networking transitioned into social media over the time period we're talking about, over the pandemic, I would say, you had people with really small followings going viral. So you might have like 1,000 followers, but you got 1 million people watching your thing. So there's actually two follower accounts. There's a number of people that have hit subscribe on your thing, but then there's a number of people that have seen your thing. So I would argue that the more important number is reach. Like how many people have you reached in the last week or month, and how consistently are you doing that? But obviously you need to be able to measure something, and that's why people still look at followers and subscribers and so on. But
would you not argue that there's a would you not argue that, because I do obviously hear what you're saying, but then I'm just thinking from especially if you're like a brand, for example, somebody can go viral once, but that's because of some whatever it was in the content that gave it virality, if you like. However, following or subscription numbers would kind of indicate value in the sense of people are seeing your stuff, but then also get in and see the value in what you're saying, that in what you're saying or providing, that they're saying, you know what, I want to follow this person because I want to be up to date with what they are posting.
No, so your follow count's still important. I just think that it's like the second most important number is what I'm trying to say. So if you're a brand and you want to go with someone who's trusted and someone who has longevity, they're going to have a big following, because when you hit that button, as you said, you're saying that you want to see that person again. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the most views from that person. Because someone could have posted something a week ago, could have gone viral, and then their page is like hot for that period of time. So I think both things are important, but I think we're now living in the age of reach. We all look. This is also the other thing when it comes to content creation. What I find very interesting is that people, we're all very sophisticated consumers of content, but when it comes to creating content, for some reason, there's a switch that goes off in people's heads where they like forget what it's like to watch stuff. We all know that we don't subscribe to every single thing that we see. Right? You might see something, send it to your friend, go, oh, haha, isn't this so funny? And then they watch it and then they move on. Like, that's reach. But you don't go, I definitely have to subscribe. I definitely need to click on the link. Now, if you see that thing 4, 5, 6, 7 times, then you might be like, okay, let me subscribe to this person so that, but people, we're very quick to forget what it's like to consume stuff when we're on the creator side. I just find that very interesting.
No, you're right, to be fair. Now, for I guess clarity's sake, what is the business of Mr. Money Jar?
I'm a financial educator. So the service I provide is twofold. I provide free financial content to the masses, and then I provide audiences to brands who want to get in front of those people. That's it at the end of the day.
Okay.
But what I will say is that if you're a content creator, and I alluded to this before, and you don't have, and you're just relying on the social platforms, you actually own nothing.
Yeah.
You don't own the platform. You don't own the followers. I think you make the platform a licensee of your content when you upload it to the platform, and platforms can go down. People can unfollow you. You don't own anything tangible. So you need to think about what digital assets you can own that actually stay with you regardless. And that's things like a website or a newsletter or digital products and stuff.
How have you answered that? Is that the becoming a financial advisor, basically?
So becoming a financial advisor was about crystallizing my knowledge and also letting people know that I was credible. But in terms of creating something that I own, I think that Mr. Money Jar will have to turn into a financial website of some sort at some point, because I've said loads of things on the internet, but a central hub where people can go and access this information, I think is needed.
Yeah. Okay. On that then, because you were just saying about crystallizing the knowledge, etc. I'm just curious as to, especially something like the finance world, finance information and education. You also mentioned that you're a perfectionist. So I can only imagine sometimes.
I'm a recovering one. I'm trying not to be.
I can only imagine that there's sometimes, like when you go to give your take on the budget or something like that you might be sat there for God knows how long, going through it, making sure that it's good before you post it. Right?
It'll be a day, because I was watching the autumn budget. I think it started about 12:30. Rachel Reeves delivered it in the House of Commons, and when she was 5 minutes into it, people were posting about it.
Yeah.
I was watching her live.
Yeah.
And people were posting about it on social media. I was like, how can you be posting about something that's still being read out? And it's just one of those things about social media. Like, people want to be the first to break things. People want to get the views, like as we were saying and stuff. So I've decided that I don't want to play that game at all. I watched the whole budget. I then went on to the website and downloaded the 100 and something page PDF.
Wow.
And I went through it, and there's like extra bits that they put at the end, which they don't necessarily announce in the House of Commons. So you need to read through it and look. I looked at everything, and I took a day, and I gave my view a day later. I would much rather wait for a day and give the full story than announce something 5 minutes into the budget being read out.
That's quite funny, actually, because, well, it's funny because we've known each other for a number of years now, and I don't think we've had too many conversations about football. Are you a football guy?
No.
Yeah, no, you're not. That's why. But there's a guy in football. He's a football journalist called Fabrizio Romano. He's a well-renowned one, and his whole thing is he's developed a name for knowing when transfers have happened, right, between clubs. And his whole thing is, I don't want to be the first to break it to you, but know that when I announce it,
it's time.
It's time.
Yeah.
So he's got a little catchphrase. He goes, "Here we go."
Yeah.
And as soon as you hear "Here we go," you know that it's legit.
Yeah. And as long as "Here we go" isn't like a year later, like there is a window. But I think the reason why I make that point about stuff being announced when the thing is being read out is that again. So I said that sometimes we're consumers of things, and sometimes when we want to create, we forget what it means to consume. What I also think happens is that we are all experts in something, but then a complete lay person in another thing. And so that was a reminder to me that there are other niches and industries where this is happening, where there are people that are sharing information, but the thing's not even being been read out yet. And you're there reading it going, oh, this health thing has happened and stuff. But like, how complete is that analysis? And how much is the person doing it just to get views on their thing? Or are they actually trying to help people? So that was like another reminder to me of, okay, this is happening in the finance world, but this is happening to do with everything, really.
Well, I don't know if you saw, I'm sure you would have done, but Stephen Bartlett and Dario CFO, did you see the news that came out today?
The news that came out today,
about all the BBC investigation into misinformation from that, and you're looking and thinking, that's like the gold standard of podcasting, right? And you're like, if that's happening there, obviously it's not exactly the same as what we're talking about here, but I think it just goes to show that, and more credit to you, should I say, in terms of making sure that the information that you do give out is accurate, and as you said, giving yourself that kind of a stamp of certification with the going down the route of becoming a financial advisor. So credit to you on that, man. That's fair play, man. That's all right, cool. So we were having a conversation off air, literally a couple minutes before we started our press record, and you were talking about systems, and I think you even mentioned about systems earlier. So just talk to me about the importance of systems to you, what it means to you, and why you're so keen on systems.
Yeah, so I'm a perfectionist. I also
recovering.
Look, this is a really significant time for me, Darren, because it's halfway through the decade. So COVID was 5 years ago.
That's mental when people say that.
Yeah. And in another 5 years, it'll be 2030. So not only am I reviewing 2024, I'm actually reviewing the decade, the 2020s. Yeah. And I'm thinking about how I want the rest of the decade to go. And I think my strengths are, I'm really good at analyzing information. I know my stuff. People trust me and stuff. But I think, I'm prone to perfectionism. I don't think I'm the most consistent. So I think when I show up well. But I think I could show up more consistently. And I think I'm also quite spontaneous. So there've been times when I've wanted to do a post, for example, and I just have that eureka moment, and I'm like, I just need to talk about this thing, and then I end up posting it at 11:30 p.m. or something. But I'd like to be more systems focused, and for me, a system is something that you create once, and then it serves you for the duration of its life, and then it's just about tweaking and stuff. So I'm trying to systemize everything. I think that if you can systemize things, it saves time. It stops you from making mistakes. It's something that you can hand to someone else. Like, as I think about expanding the business, I can't have everything in my head. I need to be able to give people a document or like a way that things work so that they can do it as well. And it turns out that I'm pretty good at building systems and automating as well. One thing that I'm really loving at the moment, I don't know if anyone here uses the AI tools. I use all of them. So I use every day. I use ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, and what's the other one? ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot, and there's like a fourth one. It'll come back to me. I use them all more or less on a daily. And something that I use Gemini for, which is the Google one, is... I've been
bombarded by ads from Gemini.
Have you used Gemini?
No, but I've just seen every other ad on, well, I guess YouTube, isn't it? But every other ad on YouTube right now is Gemini.
Yeah, so ChatGPT is the best over... Meta AI, sorry.
Okay.
Meta AI is the fourth one. A lot of people don't realize that that's out. So there's different use cases for all of them. So ChatGPT is the best overall AI platform, I would say. It delivers the richest answers. It also knows who I am, which is nice. Copilot is good for searches, for one-off searches. Gemini is good for querying Google products and services, and I'll come back to that in a second. And then Meta AI is really good at creating images and videos, like animations and stuff. But yeah, something that I use on the systems point, something that I use Gemini for is you can take blocks of text and you can just put them into Gemini and say, make me a calendar event, and it'll just make them. So, and like I need to be here, there, everywhere.
Wait, so it goes straight into your Google Calendar?
Straight into your Google Calendar.
Oh, wow, nice.
Straight into your Google Calendar. So literally, I booked flights the other day. You get the email, and it was like this flight to go out, and then this flight to come back. I literally just copy pasted all of it, pasted it into Gemini, and said, make this into a calendar event, and it's just in my calendar.
Wow. So
for someone who needs to, like, where I need to be and when I need to be there, I need something that's like quick and that I can tell someone else to do that. I can be like, use this tool to do that. So that I'm doing that, but like in all other areas of my life, I'm trying to systemize my mornings, like a morning routine down. I'm trying to systemize my relationship.
But you may have to elaborate on that one.
Yeah. So putting in regular times to talk on the phone, to go out on dates, to spend time with each other. What I think works well is you have your system, and then you're flexible within that thing you've created. I think that's you don't want to be like systematic all the way down. But like if you think about it, your birthday is a system.
Touche.
You're alive every day. But we have just decided, okay, on this one day, we're going to acknowledge your existence. And then you can keep quiet for another.
It's true.
Yeah. There are systems everywhere. And it's just, something I'm enjoying doing.
I think Ali Abdal, I told you about him, isn't it?
Yeah, you put me onto Ali Abdal, and I met him the other day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went to his book signing.
Nice. Oh, Feel Good Productivity, right? Yeah. He posted a video literally yesterday or 2 days ago, and I watched it, and he was basically saying, when he said about systemizing your relationship, he basically said the same thing. He was like, I think the video was 6 habits to make 2025 your best year or something like that, right? And he said one of the things is having a recurring weekly, bi-weekly, monthly kind of social event.
Yeah.
So every week, every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m, me and my friends go to the same place, same time, and basically we just make sure it's in there so that we all know if people can make it, they can make it. If not, they can't, and we just do the same thing the week after type of thing. So it's quite interesting that you say that. But
I'm a big fan of that. Obviously, don't tell your wife or your girlfriend that that's what you're doing, but yeah, putting stuff in the calendar, make sure that it happens.
Yeah, no, nice. All right, and I guess that's obviously also tying into your I can't remember if you said at the beginning of this conversation or if you had the conversation off air, so forgive me. But around kind of separating yourself from the business, then I guess it's necessary for you to systemize things in order for you to do that, right?
Yeah. If you want to scale your business, then you need to get as much as possible out of your head and onto paper, so that other people so you can replicate yourself, and so that other people can do the stuff that you've been doing within your company.
Yeah. What's next for Mr. Manager? As you said, we're approaching the end of 2024. 2025 is literally a matter of days away.
Yeah, 2
weeks away, just over. What's on the horizon?
Yeah, well, I'm writing a book, so
nice.
That'll be coming out soon, and 2025 from a business perspective will be about this transition that I've been talking about. So taking it from being mainly me doing stuff to growing it, and I'm looking forward to doing that. And I'm doing that because I'm not doing that for the money, but I wish I cared about money more. I really don't care about money at all. I've tried, but
if that sentence was taken out of context, the scandal that would cause, Mr. Money just says he doesn't care about.
But like it's like I think money's a tool. I think it's useful, but like I just can't think of any decision I've taken because of how much money I would get. Like, I always filter it through, how can I help people? How can I add value? Okay, it's paying this much. Okay, cool. Genuinely. And I hope I can continue to be that way. I suspect that a lot of people start off in this way, and then the checks become bigger, and they're like, well, I'm being paid like £10 million, so who cares? So I'm hoping that I can keep up that standard. So I want to expand things so I can help more people.
Try not to break the set while you're talking.
I want to expand things so that I can help more people.
Yeah.
And what I'm also trying to do in my life is be more balanced. So I separate my life into 4 buckets: personal, professional, health, and social. And then I'll set goals for each of those each year. So I don't want my life to just be all about work. I want it to be about family, friends, staying fit. I'm 35 now, and you don't get a pamphlet or anything, but like, your body changes as you get older. Like, you don't get your health for free anymore. So that when you see me running these marathons and stuff, I'm doing it to motivate me to stay fit, essentially. So going forwards, it's about expansion. It's about more. It's about better, and it's about being more balanced as well.
Yeah. And how do you remain disciplined, motivated from a business perspective? Because I think, again, yesterday when we were having our conversation, I think you mentioned around that being a challenge. How do you overcome that?
Discipline.
Well, the discipline and the motivation to keep going. Because, well, one thing that you said to me yesterday, which I really liked, and I think I mentioned to you that I really liked, it was around how burnout doesn't come across in the sense of you go to bed one night perfectly fine and you wake up the next morning burnt out. In your world, for example, it manifests itself in a sense of the length of, or the lag time between posts will gradually increase until maybe you stop posting, for example, and then that's the gradual signs of you burning out. And then ultimately, so how do you overcome that? How do you remain? I know you mentioned obviously from a physical perspective, you're keeping yourself fit, running, etc. But I guess from a business perspective, how do you manifest that into your business and making
stay motivated? Yeah. Again, systems. Sorry if I'm sounding like a broken record.
No.
But thankfully, when it comes to the financial industry, things tend to run in cycles. So I've started to gear a lot more of my content around having to come up with a different idea every day. I have a master spreadsheet of key financial, consumer, and awareness days that happen throughout the whole year. Every April to March. I've done it for the financial year, so that from April to March, it replicates the financial year. So on any given day, I can just go into that calendar and I can be like, okay, what's happening in the UK this week? And then I can create a piece of content about that. So that's huge, because I'm not having to come up with ideas all the time. Like, I've got my thing there and it tells me what to talk about. Then if I want to talk about something separate or react to something in between that, then I can do that. What you're saying about burnout is absolutely fine, absolutely true, which is that the key risk in business, and particularly when doing something like content creation, is that you just give up. And everyone thinks that they will, as you said, go to bed one night and then wake up and be like, oh, I don't want to do that anymore. But what I've experienced is the gap between your posts just gets larger and larger until one day you're like, oh, I've left it too long, I can't post again, and you don't post again. And I've seen that happen to like really good content creators platforms. They've just disappeared and stopped posting. So I think you really need to love what you do. You have to fundamentally enjoy it. You need to be good at it, or at least improving, so you get that reward of getting better at it. And I think you also need to know your why. I think that there's a bigger why to a lot of the things that we do in life, even if we don't realize it. Again, when we were speaking offline, we were talking about this podcast, and whilst on the face of it, it might seem like a podcast, what you're actually doing, I think, is you are allowing Black stories of success to be told to inspire people. And then you've gone, okay, well, maybe the most efficient way or maybe the most engaging way to do that is a podcast. But if we were alive 100 years ago, you would just find another way to do that. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's important to know what you're doing, but to not get too caught up in like the specific format that you're using, and to instead focus on your why. Everyone's got a why. Everyone's got a thing that if you ask them, they will talk about that subject for an hour uninterrupted. Or everyone's got a thing that when they were a child, they were really, really interested in it. And, you know, your parents would be like, oh yeah, he or she really just loves doing that thing. You can use those things as clues as to what you love and what you're good at. And when things get hard, which they inevitably will do, the thing that gets you through is your love and interest and aptitude for the subject. If you have to force yourself to continue doing something, it's probably not your thing. So just try and find out what your thing actually is.
No, thank you. What does success mean to you? If you're, you said you're 35, let's double that, 70, roughly the age people retire these days.
Yeah.
Let's say you're 70 years old and you're looking back on your life. What would have had to have transpired and what would life need to look like for you to be like, it's been pretty successful?
Yeah. So I love this question because you kicked off this episode by talking about the first time we did the recording that didn't come out. And if you'd asked me this question 4 years ago, I probably would have given you a bunch of economic, financial, business milestones and stuff. But success to me is, so I'm like 70 and people are talking about the life I've lived. It's got to be being a good son, brother, cousin, friend, husband, dad. It's got to be that. That doesn't mean that I won't make money or that I won't achieve things, but I will achieve things in service of that. Something I didn't realize about myself as I basically didn't make any money until I turned 30. And now that I'm making a bit of money, I actually realized that like one of my love languages is gift giving. So I don't care about gifts, but I actually like buying things for people. I like helping people out. I didn't know that about myself. So if I make money, with regards to this success question, it'll be about how can I use that money to be a better family member, member of my community. But rather than just chasing money for its own sake, because I think it's really easy to get trapped in that hamster wheel. But we all know stories of quote unquote successful people, and then their wives left them, or like they have no friends. They just live in a massive house by themselves. That would not be success for me at all.
Yeah.
Human relationships are 100% the most important things we have. They are, you can always earn a bit more money. You can always get another job, start up another business. If you lose a friendship or a relationship with a family member, that's something that's gone potentially forever. So I just want to keep my eye on the prize and be really real with myself about what's actually important to me. You know, I'm sure when this goes out, it'll be a fantastic episode. It'll help a lot of people. But I'm just happy to be sat here talking to you, man. Like, we'll remember this.
That.
Yeah. We'll remember this when we're both 70.
It's true. It's very true. Before I ask you the last question, there was one thing I did want to very quickly touch on, which I completely forgot about and I've just randomly remembered. And that was the conscious decision that you made to, I can't go as far as to call it a rebrand, but for the eagle-eyed amongst us who follows Rotimi may notice that your LinkedIn and your social media presence has changed from Timi Merriman-Johnson to Rotimi Merriman-Johnson.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's my name. So I wanted to go, look, all through secondary school, do you know what people called me?
Timi? Tim.
Timi. All through secondary school.
Wow, okay.
And I've never watched an episode of South Park before.
To be fair, South yeah, fair.
Some people used to call me that. Some people used to call me Timothy.
Fair.
Some people didn't know how to spell Timi. It's like Timi, but I've had everything. I've had just every possible other spelling.
Yeah.
So that's happening at school and with people who don't know me. But with my family and some of my friends, they've called me Rotimi since I was a baby. So for them, there's been no change at all. And I looked at what I was doing and the spaces I was occupying. I've been to Downing Street this year. I've been to the House of Commons twice. I've been to the Bank of England countless times. There are many, many rooms where I am the only black person in the room. And if I'm not the only black person, I'm the only black man. And my surname is Merriman-Johnson. So I wanted to have a name which made my heritage clear. And that also felt authentic to me. I wanted to do this, funnily enough, I wanted to do this around the time that we did our first podcast episode, and I bailed. I didn't think that I was worthy of using my full name, because it's thinking our parents move here and then we are raised here, but there's loads of like shortening and anglicization that we do to make our names more pronounceable. But I got to November this year, had my birthday. I thought, no, it's time. The world, there's a different world we live in now. We live in a global world, and I feel like I'm ready now. And look, it's just, I feel like people are calling me by my name for the first time in my life. It feels great. I got into an Uber the other day, and the guy, you pulled up into the Uber, and you get in, you tell them like your name. So I was like, hi, Rotimi. And it was a Nigerian guy, and he looks into the rear view mirror and he goes, Rotimi.
My brother.
And then he drives off. It was so cool.
Nah, like
it was awesome. It was genuinely awesome.
Yeah.
But what I've said to people is, call me what you're comfortable with. I'm known by so many names, by people who write letters to me and that I have to fill out forms for. They know me as Daniel because Daniel's my first name. People that I went to school with or maybe worked with will know me as Timi. People who know me professionally might know me as Rotimi. My family know me as Rotimi. I've said to people, I'm calling myself Rotimi, but everyone can call me what they're most comfortable with. And most people have gone with Rotimi, to be fair.
Yeah. To be fair, I mean, it's I think when we were having the conversation yesterday, I think I said, look, I mean, if you're calling yourself Rotimi, I think it's only fair. And also it's not as if it's that much harder than Timi, is it? So.
The analogy I've used for people is that it's like going, I don't want to be called, not that I don't want to be called, I'm going from being called Tony to Anthony. Like it's literally that.
Yeah. No, that's more power to you, man. And I commend that. I commend that. So my final.
Thank you for asking me about that.
No worries, man. No worries. I'm it was something that I noticed and I was conscious of and thought, better to ask a question, right? So my final two questions are: if anybody was to take away one thing from this episode, what would that piece of advice, quote, or whatever it may be to the listeners?
You have been put on this earth to, use your God-given talents to help people. You don't want to die with your best work and your best ideas in your head. So just do the thing without fear.
Without fear. And there's a book on my bookshelf actually. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
There we go.
I can't remember who wrote it, but I read it once, but years ago. I'm gonna have to reread that actually. But no, that's I like that. I like that a lot. And on that actually, book or resource that you would recommend to people to check out.
Yeah. So look, I'm reading all the time. I think something I'll say about reading is, in this social media world where there's information flying around all over the place, you got content, you got news, you got podcasts and stuff. All of these are fine, but the richest information is in books. It's just the amount of detail that you're able to go into in a book, the amount of analysis, the expertise of the author, and the process, the rigorous process that book has gone through, means that books are the best place to get information. But reading books is very expensive in terms of your time and your energy. It requires 2 hands, 2 eyes, 2 legs, unless you're reading, looking away, walking. So it requires a lot of your time and attention. So I have been using audiobooks a lot, and I'd really recommend to people to just, sign up to Audible, use I think it's 15 hours of free audiobook listening on Spotify. Like, it's out there. You go through the equivalent of a book every single month if you if you just are willing to listen to them. Sometimes I'll do both. Sometimes I'll have the audiobook on 2x and I'll have the Kindle or the real book in front of me. But I like audiobooks a lot. I just want to make this point because I went last year, I didn't really read that much. And the first half of this year I didn't. And then a friend told me just like, listen to audiobooks. And I've just read so many since then. And it's all it's the same information download. It doesn't matter whether you're reading the words off a page or if you're listening to them. The words are still going in. So I just wanted to make that point. So I'm reading different books all the time. I'm actually reading a very interesting book at the moment called Socialism 101 by Kathleen Sears. Because I speak about the economy and politics and finance and capitalism a lot. I've had a few people ask me about socialism, and my knowledge of socialism has always been surface level. And so now I'm trying to understand it at a deeper level so that I can explain it to people, but so that I can also understand what's going on in the world at the moment. Because socialism emerged as a alternative and almost a critique of capitalism. A lot of people, I think, understand what these words mean, but wouldn't necessarily be able to articulate them. And the system we live in is capitalism, and in capitalism, actually no, how would you define capitalism?
I would define capitalism as ultimately,
there's no one like agreed definition by the way.
Yeah. I would say capitalism is ultimately you can, how we were saying earlier that there's enough money to go around. I would say capitalism is you can get as much as that of the pie as you humanly want, or physically or conceivably can, ultimately. Whereas I'd imagine, I could be wrong here actually, I'd imagine socialism is more, how can we divvy up the pie as, not necessarily as fairly as possible, but ultimately I guess the end goal and the ideal is how can we divvy up the pie as fairly as possible. In capitalism or in a capitalist society, it's more somebody can get 20% of the pie, somebody can have 1%, and somebody can have 0.00001% of the pie, right? It just depends on you as a person, you as an individual. And one thing I was, what book was it that I was reading very recently that talks about resourcefulness? I think it was Key Person of Influence, if I'm not mistaken.
Daniel Priestley?
Yeah, I think it was that. And towards the end of it, he talks about the difference between being resources, how people think that there's limited resources out there, whereas actually it's your ineffectiveness at being resourceful. Do you get what I mean?
Okay.
And so, capitalism is the most resourceful of people will get the larger slice of the pie.
Okay, that's interesting. So
You're about to tell me, Darren, that is complete and utter rubbish.
No. The pie analogy works. It does for sure. I just like the way that they're both defined in this book I'm reading, Socialism 101, because in it, Kathleen says that within capitalism, goods and services are publicly, they're socially produced, but they are privately owned. So within a capitalistic society, you could work for a company, you could work 12 hours a day, you could pour in your heart and soul and all your expertise and all your energy into this company. You can increase the value of that company, but unless you own a part of that business, all of the fruits of your labor essentially go to the shareholders. You get a salary, but you don't have any ownership unless you have created that business or have bought into a share of it. Whereas within socialism, goods and services are socially produced, but the fruits are shared socially as well. And I think that there's some really interesting things happening in the world at the moment. If you look, for example, at that CEO that was killed the other day.
The insurance in New York.
I think that the gap between the wealthiest in society and the everyday person is increasing. And I think people are becoming more disgruntled about that. And whilst I don't condone assassinating someone under any circumstances, I think that it is a sign that capitalism isn't working as it should anymore. And I think that as developed countries become, as their growth starts to plateau, they're going to have to create more socialistic structures. Because they're almost saying, we've grown to a certain point, we now have a level of a good or a service or a lifestyle, we're now going to make that available to everyone. And the book I'm talking about, for example, cites the NHS as an example of that. It's not even 100 years old yet, but it's like we just got to a point where we decided that healthcare should be made available to everyone for free at the point of service. I think that needs to happen. I think I'm going to see it happen more, is what I'm saying. The tricky thing with the UK is, you know, if we look at, say, for example, the Scandinavian countries that have socialist type policies and institutions, they can afford to do that because the country's in the single digit millions in terms of population, but the UK has 68 million people in it. And we see that play out with the NHS as well.
But then they have, not that this is like a economic show or anything, but then they have for higher taxes than we do.
Yeah, taxes as a share of GDP are higher in the countries I've just mentioned. The UK has historically been quite low. The US is very, very low. But under Labour, who knows, in the next 5 years, taxes may go up even more. And the trade-off is supposed to be, yeah, you get higher tax, but if you want to have a baby in Sweden, I think it's like 390 days of maternity.
That's outrageous.
Paid. Yeah. I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the trade-off.
Yeah. Wow. Rotimi, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you again. I've thoroughly enjoyed that conversation, and I know that the guys listening to this are going to get an immense amount of value from this. So thank you so much. I do greatly, greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, Timi, man.
Wow. Guys, there we have it. Another episode in the bag. Oh, before I do that, actually, where can people find you?
I'm at Mr. Money Jar online across all social media.
Nice and easy.
And on your favorite AI chatbot as well.
Nice and easy. There you have it. Mr. Manager, ladies and gentlemen, fantastic episode. Don't forget to comment if you're watching this on YouTube what your favorite takeaway from this episode was. But guys, I'm going to sign out there. This has been the Blackprint, joined by my fantastic guest, Mr. Money Jar himself, Rotimi Merriman-Johnson. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.